Guys, back again with another WWE Smackdown review. I didn't do one last week, obviously I mentioned that though, but yeah, I'm going to try and do them every week from now on. So yeah, to begin the show we had the New Day come out. Obviously from whoever saw their promo with The Rock on Monday, it was so funny, it was just amazing. And basically they came out and were just saying that, they're the ones with gold around their waist, not The Rock, and that he was disrespectful, and that he referred to their unicorns as llama penises, which was amazing on Raw. That was pretty funny, but and they basically were saying that it's not PG what he was saying, just basically trying to get the, and they obviously Smackdown, the crowd they have on Smackdown, it's nowhere near. A pay-per-view crowd is a lot more mature fans and a lot more pure wrestling fans than the guys who turn up for your Raws and Smackdowns. Raw's not too bad, but Smackdown it's a very friendly type audience. That's I think the best way to put it. But they were just basically getting some heat off the crowd, which they were trying to do by talking down about The Rock. And then The Miz came out and basically said he agreed, which prompted, in the end, the Usos to come out. And then basically Kofi was saying that there's 4 of them, 2 of the Usos, so the Usos introduced their two other tag team partners, which were Titus O'Neil and Dolph Ziggler. So Dolph Ziggler came running out, and that meant that the Usos, Titus and Dolph, ran into the ring, cleared the ring, which set up a match between all 8, so a 4-man, an 8-man tag. And the Usos, Dolph and Titus, got the win with Dolph hitting a super kick on the Miz into a Clash of the Titus. So Titus O'Neil getting the pin and the win for his team. It was actually a pretty decent match. I'm not the biggest fan of like 8-man tags. I think they can be a bit, because they're done so often, I think they can be overdone. But it was an alright way to begin the show for a Smackdown. I wouldn't have wanted that on Raw, but for a Smackdown it wasn't too bad. Then we had the US title match, the United States Championship match between Callisto and Neville, which, if you're a high-flying fan, it was like Christmas. I mean, the match was insane. Neville and Callisto, 2 of the best high flyers in WWE, for the United States Championship. I think they're going to have Callisto a bit on the same type of road as John Cena with that title. He's going to defend a lot. He's not just going to defend at pay-per-view events. And obviously defending against Neville was a great match. Callisto did dominate, and he ended up getting the Soledad del Sol to pick up the win on Neville and retain the US Championship, which is... Obviously, I like both guys, but I much prefer, obviously, that Callisto holds the belt, because I do think that keeping the belt on Callisto until WrestleMania could be a good plan, because if he's put over right and he does seem to have a pretty good support from the crowd, I think putting him in a real feud for WrestleMania, that could be a good spot on the show as one of the lower matches, because if you put someone that he's got some really good in-ring chemistry with, that could be a really great match. Because if you think of it on the face of it, not too many people would consider Callisto to have a match at WrestleMania, or a big match at all. But I think they could really do something with him at WrestleMania. So it was a good match, great high-flying match. Then we had the highlight reel, the Chris Jericho highlight reel. So basically, Chris Jericho had Dean Ambrose and Roman Reigns out, and just basically asked Dean and Roman Reigns that if when the bell rings at Fastlane in the main event, is their friendship going to go out the window, basically just for that match. And obviously they were, Dean Ambrose and Roman Reigns were saying that obviously they're going to be friends, whatever. And then Chris Jericho kind of like tried to try and get an answer out of them, basically, and to which Dean said, well, when the bell rings, I'm basically going to punch him in the mouth. It wasn't like malicious trash talk, I guess. It was like friends just being, saying what that they're gonna beat the other one, basically, your normal like friendship type thing. So they went back and forth, Dean and Roman, with a few words, but then the Wyatt family came out, and basically Bray Wyatt was saying that the apocalypse is here, run, all that type of stuff, which basically set up the main event. The main event was Bray Wyatt and 2 of his Wyatt family members versus Jericho, Roman, and Dean. So that was the main event later on. Then we had AJ Styles beat Curtis Axel. AJ Styles, man, I love him. He's already one of my favorite wrestlers in WWE, because I mean I've not been a huge fan of I've not been a fan of other wrestling companies. I've never really watched them, but I've always known who AJ Styles was. And when I heard WWE were going to get him, it was so happy. And then when he came in the Royal Rumble, that entrance was amazing. And finally on SmackDown, he picked up the win against Curtis Axel by hitting the Styles Clash. So if no one's seen that, you've got to check out the highlights. It's one of the best finishes in WWE. It's amazing. So yeah, AJ Styles. The other members of the social outcasts were at ringside, and he took out all of them to make sure they didn't get in the way, basically, for the win. And yeah, so it was a pretty decent match. Obviously, the match he had with Jericho on Raw was amazing, but he's undefeated so far. Obviously picking up the win on Raw and now SmackDown, and it's going to be so interesting to see where they go with him heading to WrestleMania. So I'm looking forward to that. Then we had Charlotte defeat Natalya, which obviously wasn't a surprise. But then after the match, basically Charlotte, she won the match with her figure 8, Natalya tapping out. So then after the match, she put Natalya back in the figure 8 submission move until Becky Lynch came out. Becky Lynch came out to make the save, and Charlotte basically ran out the ring to get away. So yeah, not too much to talk about with the Divas division on SmackDown. After that match, though, one thing that did happen was Sasha Banks leaving Team Bad, which, thank God, because Tamina and Naomi, don't deserve to be in the spotlight like Sasha Banks. So the fact that Sasha Banks has left them now and can pursue her, which obviously, I mean, my feeling is going into WrestleMania, they're going to have a triple threat at WrestleMania for the belt with Charlotte versus Becky Lynch versus Sasha. But obviously they want, they want to take her out of this Team Bad and, let her do things on her own, basically. So that was good. Then we had basically a little segment with Goldust and R-Truth outside the arena in like a running area type thing, and Goldust, obviously from Monday Night Raw, wanted R-Truth to be his tag team partner, but it probably didn't come across the best way. But basically they were outside again stretching for a run, and Goldust said he wants R-Truth to reconsider his offer. R-Truth says he doesn't swing that way. But then Goldust said he meant as a tag team partner, which obviously the way they're going, they've kind of promoted it on both shows now. You have to think that that's going to probably be a tag team, R-Truth and Goldust, Golden Truth or something. That's what Goldust referred it to. So yeah, we'll see what happens with that. I mean, the tag team division desperately needs some tag teams, but obviously, if that is a tag team, it's not going to be a tag team that many people take to as seriously, and nor would I want them to be a top of the tag team division. I mean, I don't think that would ever happen, but I just think there's so many great up and coming tag teams on NXT that need to be promoted to the main roster. I've mentioned a few times Enzo and Big Cass. Those two are amazing. But we'll see if WWE does that, because otherwise I think their tag team match at WrestleMania, the New Day are going to be involved in that, but it could be a disappointment, and I really don't want it to be, because if they brought one of the NXT tag teams up, or worse comes to worse, if they could put two superstars together, there are some superstars they could do that with. It's just, if we see basically the New Day versus the Usos or Dudley Boys again at WrestleMania, it would just be like the 500th time. And at WrestleMania, you want something fresh, you want something new, something that could be amazing. So hopefully they find a way to incorporate a couple of new tag teams in the division somehow. But yeah, we'll have to see where that one goes. And then the main event, Roman Reigns, Dean Ambrose and Chris Jericho versus Bray Wyatt, Luke Harper and Eric Rowan with Braun Strowman at ringside. So the match went back and forth, all guys having their spot in the ring, some good moments, and basically it came down to Luke Harper and Roman Reigns in the ring with Braun Strowman, who tried to interfere, but basically Roman Reigns managed to get through it and landed a Superman punch to Luke Harper, went for the pin, but his foot was basically near the bottom rope, and Braun Strowman pulled Roman Reigns out the ring, basically threw him into the barricade, and then the Wyatt family, all four of them, started getting the upper hand on Roman Reigns, Dean Ambrose and Chris Jericho, to the point where all four Wyatt members were in the ring with Roman Reigns, and they were about to set up Bray Wyatt with the sister Abigail, but then the Big Show came out. So the Big Show came out, tried to get the save, but then the Wyatt family started beating down on the Big Show until the rest of the baby faces, basically Jericho, Ambrose and Reigns, came in, and it ended with those four getting the upper hand on the Wyatt family and Reigns hitting a spear on Luke Harper to end it. So yeah, I mean, it was a pretty decent SmackDown off the back of what I thought was a really good Raw. The best Raw I've seen since I've got back into the WWE, back into watching it full time basically. And yeah, it was a pretty decent SmackDown, one of the best I've seen again. So hopefully WWE can keep up this momentum of, I think bringing AJ Styles to the WWE has lifted a lot of fans on and just lifted the place quite a bit. And obviously their shows have been good. It's going to be, Fastlane's going to be great. The main event, Dean, Roman and the Beast, Brock Lesnar, that's going to be sick. That's going to be an amazing match. So yeah, that was my SmackDown review, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and see you soon.